A white officer stops a black judge at the courthouse. But what happens next is shocking. Naomi Carter was running late again. As she pulled up outside the downtown courthouse, a patrol car slowly cruised beside her, lights flashing faintly. The officer stepped out, eyes locked on her, suspicion clear in every move. Naomi's pulse quickened, not because she had done anything wrong, but because the tension was impossible to ignore. In the next moments, the situation would flip in a way that stunned everyone, forcing onlookers to question authority, assumptions, and the meaning of justice. Naomi Carter had spent decades building a career that demanded integrity, intelligence, and unwavering calm under pressure. She wasn't just a judge, she was a symbol of fairness in a system too often swayed by bias. Early mornings, late nights, endless case files. This was her life. Yet, despite her accomplishments, some things couldn't be controlled. Like the assumptions people made the moment they saw her skin, her gender, or the suit she wore. That morning, Naomi had overslept. The courthouse parking lot was filling fast. Lawyers, clerks, and reporters hustled to their offices, briefcases clutched in hand, the scent of fresh coffee mixed with the faint tension of pending trials. Naomi had dealt with difficult litigants and skeptical juries before, but nothing had prepared her for the scene that awaited her outside. She pulled up, heart pounding slightly, her mind racing through the schedule ahead. That's when she saw the patrol car sliding up alongside her vehicle. She thought it was a routine traffic stop, but the officer's posture and intense stare immediately told her this was different. Naomi had been on the other side of power her entire career, but now she was the one being scrutinized. Every second stretched, every movement amplified, and every onlooker's eyes turned toward them. Sensing that tension had erupted into a silent storm, the officer approached, hand resting lightly on his belt, the faint glint of his badge catching the morning sun. Naomi lowered her window, calm but alert. She could hear the faint rustle of papers, the distant footsteps of courthouse staff, the low hum of traffic. The world seemed to shrink to the narrow gap between her and the officer. He asked for her identification, his tone clipped but courteous enough to hide the underlying skepticism. Naomi produced her judge's ID without hesitation, holding it firmly, letting the gold lettering and embossed seal do the talking. Still, the officer's eyes lingered a moment too long, scanning her vehicle, her expression, even her hands. For Naomi, the experience was surreal. She had walked into countless tense courtrooms, diffusing arguments, mediating disputes, and commanding respect in spaces where tempers flared. But now, she was at the mercy of someone who had no knowledge of her career, her authority, or her life, only assumptions. A small crowd had begun to gather on the sidewalk, whispers rippling like waves through the morning air. Phones were lifted discreetly, cameras trained, some bystanders recording the tension as it mounted. Seconds felt like hours. Naomi's mind ran through every possible outcome. What if he called for backup? What if he escalated the situation publicly? The thought that this could spiral into a story, framed around bias and injustice, lingered in her mind. Yet she stayed composed, breathing slowly, aware that any hint of agitation might worsen the officer's suspicion. Then something unexpected happened. A faint smile crossed Naomi's face as she realized the officer hadn't recognized her. This was her chance to flip the script, not with anger, but with authority, presence, and undeniable truth. Naomi's calm voice carried over the growing murmurs of the crowd. She identified herself again, explicitly stating her role as a sitting judge of the district court. The officer paused, processing the weight of her words. The realization hit slowly at first, then fully. He had stopped one of the most respected judges in the state without knowing it, driven by bias rather than fact. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Onlookers exchanged glances, some nodding in disbelief, others shaking their heads. Naomi remained composed, but inside, a storm of emotions swirled: frustration, indignation, and an almost surreal satisfaction at the poetic irony unfolding before her. The officer's face turned pale, his posture rigid. For the first time that morning, the power dynamic had reversed. Naomi held up her ID again, letting the sunlight glint off the seal. "I am Judge Naomi Carter," she said, her voice steady and commanding, "and I expect to be treated accordingly." The officer stammered, clearly caught off guard, fumbling for words as the crowd's whispers swelled. Phones clicked, recording the moment when the symbol of justice confronted assumption head-on. It was over in minutes, but the impact was immediate. The officer stepped back, muttering an apology that sounded rehearsed, almost hollow. Naomi nodded curtly, maintaining her dignity, before carefully driving past him and into the courthouse. But the moment lingered in the air, one of justice reclaimed, assumptions confronted, and authority asserted. Inside the courthouse, Naomi took a deep breath, letting the tension ease from her shoulders. Her courtroom was her domain, But the world outside was often far less predictable. She reflected on the incident, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Bias, she knew, could manifest anywhere, even in routine interactions that seemed mundane at first glance. And yet, moments like these were also opportunities. Opportunities to reclaim dignity, to confront injustice, and to remind everyone watching that authority and respect are not assumptions, but earned through truth and integrity. The story spread quickly, quietly at first, then explosively, through social media and news outlets. Naomi's experience became a symbol, not just of racial bias, but of the power of composure, presence, and justice. People discussed, debated, and reflected on the thin line between suspicion and prejudice, between authority and assumption. For Naomi, the takeaway was simple. Dignity cannot be assumed. It must be carried, and moments of injustice can be transformed into lessons of awareness and resilience. That morning, she had turned what could have been humiliation into a statement of unshakable authority. As she looked out over the bustling courthouse, she asked herself quietly but pointedly, how often do we let assumptions define reality? And who pays the price when we do?